he will shortly be sharing with us the results for the Q2 business and consumer confidence indices. I'd like to thank our sponsors, NCB, National Commercial Bank, and NCB Capital Markets, for again partnering with us on this. And special recognition to the presenters, Ms. Nadine Matthews-Blair, Vice President, Group Marketing, Analytics, and Digital, and also from NCB Capital Markets, Denaria Brown, Vice President of Innovation and Strategy. Those individuals from our sponsors were strategically selected to bring us some insights into our topic today. Also want to say welcome to our three panelists, Mr. Larry Pierce, Chief Executive Officer of Blue Dot Insights, Mr. Norman Chen, Acting CEO of T-Tech Limited, and of course, Mr. Yoni Epstein, Chief Executive Officer and Founding Chairman of ITEL BPO. We look forward to a robust discussion on business and consumer confidence, and certainly from your perspectives, how we can continue to grow our economy and increase business prospects. We have a Q&A section in the chat, which I will ask all participants. If you wish, you can put your questions in the chat and we will try and address as many of them as possible during the session. So without further ado, our first presenter, representing National Commercial Bank, is Mrs. Nadine Matthews-Blair, Vice President, Group Marketing, Analytics, and Digital. And I will now invite Nadine to make her presentation. Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning, Mr. Gooden, and good morning, everyone. I am really excited to bring a warm welcome this morning, though not the kind of warmth we have been experiencing, because I don't think any of us want that, but really privileged to host the second quarter business and consumer confidence indices. NCB and NCB Capital Markets continues to be a proud sponsor. And I'm really excited to have an opportunity to host you and speak about a topic that is not only revolutionizing the way we do business, but really, as the title of the session, Reshaping Expectations, Igniting Innovation. So generative AI has become very topical, a buzzword. And I would say that we've gone beyond just a buzzword. It's really a tangible tool that is transforming businesses across the globe. The AI effect, if you will, is real and happening right now, and reshaping our expectations. If we think about our utilization of social media, we expect the content to be tailored and relevant because of the AI engine in the back. So we get annoyed if the content really isn't something that is relevant to us. Pushing boundaries in terms of what's possible, and then of course, igniting and unlocking a new wave of innovation. So why should we as business owners and investors care about AI? And I want to have a little bit of interaction this morning. So allow me to start by sharing a chatbot, the demo of a chatbot developed by Dane McGibbon of Acumen Pro. I think he's in the audience today. He just received the award from the Ministry of Labor and Productivity for creating JamChat, which is a chatbot built on OpenAI, and it's really specifically designed to serve Jamaican businesses and our customers all around the world. So let me start by sharing that. And give me a nod if you can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
All right, so this was trained on, as you can see, the data from Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. And Tammy, chatbot, speaks 50 languages, including our beloved Patois. So I'm gonna, talk to Tammy. Hi, Tammy. I want to book a room. What are your rates? Okay, so Tammy responds. Where can I find the book now button? What else can I ask Tammy? What if, let me see if I can try a little patotimo. Want to book a conference room. Yeah, all inclusive. Can you see this? All right, so I'll stop sharing. So I'm seeing the emojis go up. So I'm sure that you're seeing. So this demo can be found at https://jamchatdemo.com. Big up Dane McGibbon, who shares that. You know, his reason for doing this is because Jamaican businesses lose significant sales from poor customer service every day. And so JamChat brings the power of AI to Jamaican businesses. It's essentially a virtual employee providing expert support in customer service, sales, PR. And the great thing is this chatbot can serve up to 1,000 people at once. So very scalable and allows for immediate improvement in terms of productivity, but also in terms of the customer experience. So I ask again, you know, why should we as business owners and investments care about generative AI? And the answer is really simple. It's about staying competitive and future-proofing our businesses. Today, growth is hard to come by. You know, hopefully we would agree, especially in this environment. And if we're not satisfied to grow at the pace of the country or the region, where, you know, in single digits, then one of the levers we have to pull is around improving productivity. More output with the same level of input or less. And generative AI has shown itself to provide an edge in some key use cases, such as marketing, sales, customer service, and process automation. So a few more reasons to consider embracing AI early. You know, over time, early adopters tend to outperform peers. And it's not that they always get it right, but they start experimenting early, use those failures, and that knowledge compounds. So as an example, a 2006 study by Temin and Voth showed that the early adopters of electricity had a higher probability of surviving the Great Depression. And in 1996, another study found that early adopters of computers were more likely to be profitable because they started using the computers, were able to improve efficiency and gain a competitive advantage. So the first reason is early adopters tend to have an edge. 2, starting out does not have to be expensive. Fortunately, and that tends to be an area of concern for local businesses. There are lots of off-the-shelf solutions within the Microsoft and Google suite. And they both now have free certification courses that you can invite your employees to take so that they can level up and look at how they can leverage these tools to start to improve their own personal productivity and ultimately the company's productivity. So you don't need a massive budget to get started. You can start small, see the benefits, and scale up. So I'm just going to share another example of the power of AI and how we can save time. in some of our day-to-day. So if you allow me to share screen again. So this screen is, I've dropped into ChatGPT my speech, and I asked ChatGPT, can you please create a bulleted summary of my speech? So that was the prompt. I'm gonna take this, and I have this plugin called Magic Slides in Google. And what you're able to do is just drop in some points. And I'm going to make this 10 slides, which is the max. And I'm going to generate a presentation. Do, 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 do. I hope my internet is not going to quit on me today. All right, so while it's doing that, I'll stop sharing and come back to that. But essentially, your team members can leverage this to build a quick presentation. It doesn't mean that you stop there, but it gives you the frame, and then you're able to save a lot of time. So you don't need a massive budget, lots of opportunities just leveraging the Microsoft and Google suites, and of course, ChatGPT. And then finally, there's local talent in the space. Often we assume that we have to go to international consultants, that we have to hire from overseas. And I'm excited about the talent in the market. I talked to you about Dane earlier, Star Apple AI, Blue Dot, Lauren is on the panel today. All talented Jamaicans that can get your businesses started on your AI and advanced analytics journey. So like any powerful tool, generative AI comes with its own set of challenges and risks. But it's important that we take this in perspective. So first of all, the fact that we're aware of the risks allows us to proactively mitigate them. And it's no different from any other innovation that has been launched over time. In fact, I saw a statistic and it says in 1913, 33.38 people died for every 10,000 vehicles on the road. In 2021, the death rate was 1.66 per 10,000 vehicles, a 95% improvement. So it was the Wild West when people were out there starting to drive, no safety protocols, no stoplights, no seat belts. But today, because we've learned and we've continued to improve the technology and govern how people should behave, because it takes both, we've seen that the safety of automobiles or having vehicles on the road has improved significantly. So in conclusion, I want to share a couple of quotes. So Ken Olsen, the founder of Digital Equipment Corporation in 1977 rather, said, "There's no reason anyone would want a computer in their home." And then in 1981, the New York Times wrote, "The personal computer market is about to collapse." And we know today that there are 16 billion mobile devices in the world, according to Statista, and 1.4 billion personal computers. And so what this tells us is that these predictions were wildly off the mark, but these predictions were made by experts, but expert skeptics. And these technologies have revolutionized the world because they've made life easier for persons. And whenever we see technology making life easier for persons, that is the first clue that we should be excited about finding out more and seeing how we can safely leverage to grow our businesses to improve productivity. So as it relates to skepticism and pessimism, I'd like to leave one of my favorite quotes from JFK. The problems of the world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by the obvious realities. We need men and women, my insertion, who can dream of things that never were. So let me see if my presentation is ready. Let me just go back and share screen again. And I think it is. So this is the Magic Slides version of my presentation. I'll just go quickly through. See, it has an introduction, it even has some pictures in there. Demo, you know, not a good picture of Dane. And of course, because of how AI is trained, the images are not as diverse as we would want them to be. But in short, I would have been able to create this in less than 10 minutes using the power of tools that are all free. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I really look forward. Sorry? Oh, I thought I heard something. Really looking forward to seeing all your businesses grow and flourish by taking advantage of the AI effect. Feel free to reach out to me by email. Happy to drop that in the chat, or LinkedIn if you want to discuss further. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the seminar.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Excellent. Yes, I can see that you're skilled already in the art of presentations using AI. So certainly I might call you for some tips on that as well. So thank you very much. Very insightful. We will now ask Denario Brown, Vice President, Innovation and Strategy at NCB Capital Markets, to make his presentation. Welcome again, Denario.
Thank you, Andre, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here to be a part of the Business and Consumer Confidence Indices webinar. Right, so my colleague Nadine would have shared in terms of some of the uses of AI, right? And AI, really, in short, is really just an intelligent machine, right? There are different aspects to it. We have machine learning, we have deep learning, which are could be considered as subcategories. However, the opportunity that it presents before us today is that it has the potential to transform how we operate, right? In the research that I would have been conducting, although AI is not a new concept, it has been around from 1950s, and of course, it is in a much advanced place today than where it would have been back then, right? So AI is improving, it's improving quickly, it's becoming faster, more precise, covering more data, right? Further improved precision and predictions as well, right? And we can anticipate to see it being more integrated in businesses today. Overall, AI is expected to have a massive impact on how the economy functions, right? One of the biggest challenges, of course, though, is the potential widening of the economic gaps between countries, firms, and people. Some of the data shows that developed countries are estimated to increase their economic performance by 20 to 25%, while developing countries will capture only about 5 to 15% of these benefits, right? Of course, the race for AI, as Nadine indicated, the AI effect, will see new business models and will enable firms to steal market share, right, from rivals. Hence, firms will likely win or lose market share based on their adoption of AI, right? So since firms and also to countries who adopt the utilization of AI would see efficiencies and improvement in productivity overall. The data says that, you know, the front runner firms made double their returns by 2030, while late adopters will fall behind competitively. Of course, we know that, you know, there will be impact on, you know, workers and so forth, and there needs to be training. As Nadine would have indicated, there are tools and courses available for persons to upskill themselves, participate in the new era that is coming, right? Simulations show that by 2030, AI will contribute approximately 13 trillion to the world economy. So that is very critical for businesses companies who adopt AI into their business. An estimated gain of about 50% boost in cash flows by 2030. Meanwhile, you know, non-adopters may gain a 20% decline in their cash flows. And this is from a McKinsey Global Institute analysis that was performed, right, over out to 2030. Importantly, I would like to just highlight a critical aspect where businesses are able to adopt AI. Businesses can focus on our customer satisfaction, right? And customer satisfaction can be the driving force behind, you know, how we leverage AI incrementally, as Nadine had indicated, because the costs can be exorbitant, right? So being customer-centric will allow businesses to transform their customers' experience and ultimately the returns to their organization. Because a satisfied customer, of course, is good for us all, right? So the opportunities presented by AI is crucial in today's society and in our businesses, right? Recent polls, of course, from Harvard Business Review has shown that there has been some downward trend in customer satisfaction. And of course, as we adopt AI, as noted with the Jam Chat, you wouldn't need to be on a call waiting for 3 hours to answer simple questions, right? So businesses can leverage this tool to enhance their customer experience. At NCB Capital Markets, you can expect to see us leveraging these tools to enhance our clients' experience, to answer queries, to support them in their investment journey and along their banking journey, their financial life cycle. All right, so just highlighting that customer experience, customer satisfaction is a critical area that, you know, businesses can consider to leverage AI and boost their business's performance. Thank you. And Andre, back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Certainly looking forward to that. Looking forward to our panelists' take on how AI can help with customer satisfaction and business confidence as well. Thank you very much for that. Good presentations by both our persons representing our sponsors. Okay, without further ado, I will invite Executive Chairman of Market Research Services Limited, Don Anderson, to share with us the results of the second quarter Business and Consumer Confidence Indices survey. Over to you, Don.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning to all your viewers, all your listeners, everybody. We're so happy to be able to make this presentation this morning. And I want to start as we normally do by giving you a background to the survey, not a poll, this time a survey. And it is as follows. This is a study that we have been conducting since 2001. So we're now in our 23rd year of generating and reporting on this data. The survey was conducted among 600 persons across the island in a nationally representative sample, which means that from that 600 persons, we're able to project the data to the entire population. In addition, we also interviewed 100 businesses, and we, of course, selected businesses that were representative of the entire industry spectrum And hence, again, we were able to project the data that we collected from that 100 firms to the entire business community. The fieldwork dates, April of 2023 through to June in 2023. And the data that we're going to be presenting this morning represents our findings over this last quarter. But what it does is to make comparisons with previous quarters and previous years so we can see the trend, which we all know is the best predictive tool. All right. So I'm going to now share my screen, and we want to basically see exactly how we're going to be, how the data has come out, and to effectively look at the patterns that have developed over the last quarter and how these will, in fact, manifest themselves over the next 12 months. All right. So here's our presentation. We said April to June 2023. And we look, first of all, at the whole question of consumer confidence, and then we will segue into business confidence. All right. So what has taken place over the last 3 months? Consumer confidence, as the data indicates, fell marginally by 2 percentage points compared to the first quarter of 2023. And it represents a continuation of a slight downward shift which set in during the first quarter of 2023. Coming from a period of post-COVID high index of 165 points, this represents a note of concern, but it also reflects a period of stabilization of consumer confidence over the last couple of quarters, consequent on the relaxation of certain COVID restrictions, which were in place for the last 2 years from, say, early 2020 through to the middle of 2022. So this 2% fall off, we consider to be a relatively small dip in consumer confidence, but it is something to watch over the next quarters. We should note that consumer confidence is, however, marginally better than it was in the second quarter of 2022. So let's just repeat. Consumer confidence fell by 2 percentage points between the last quarter, which is the first quarter of 2023, and the second quarter of 2023. But when we compare that data to the second quarter of 2022, we realize that there has been a slight improvement in consumer confidence over this period. We see the pattern over the period from 2001 to 2023, and we can see the bunching up of that confidence, say, between 2018 and 2019, which was the peak of consumer confidence. But it fell off dramatically because of COVID during the period 2020 to 2022, beginning to pick up back. And it is moving, if you wish, towards a period where it is probably some distance away from the peak of 183 in 2019, but it is back up to 157% after a dip to just over 110 percentage points in the midst of COVID. We look at the trend, and it says that consumers' perception of current business conditions was up. The perception was up by 1 percentage point compared to the same period last year, in quarter 2 of 2022. But this represents a minimal fall off compared to the previous quarter, moving from 95 points to 94. We're talking about indices now. So consumers' view of current business conditions, the consumer's view of current business conditions, quarter to quarter, has not really changed for 2023, but is marginally better than the same period last year. So far, there has been very little change in the way consumers view the economy. We can see, for example, when we look at current business, that in the same period of 2022, second quarter, consumers felt that current business conditions were good. 14.6% felt this way. That moved up to 15.5%, which is really a marginal increase in how consumers view current business conditions. But we want to take a note at how they see current jobs. We make the point consistently every time we make this presentation that consumers have never ever felt that jobs were plentiful. They have never ever felt that jobs were plentiful. When we look at the second quarter of 2022, 12.7%, which was a high, incidentally, 12.7% felt that jobs were plentiful. And again, this was because we were beginning to come out of COVID just then. Early stages, yes. Early days, yes. But 12.7%. When we looked at the period, the second quarter of 2023, that number fell to 11 percentage points. So fewer consumers are now feeling very positive, very optimistic about their own situation and the availability of jobs. But we notice that that is also counteracted by an increase in the number who think that jobs are adequate. So consumers' mindset is a little bit more positive now than they were at the same time last year. There are good reasons for that. Because in the third quarter and the fourth quarter of 2022, we saw consumers' confidence growing. Where we are now is that consumer confidence has flattened to a certain extent, that higher period, higher compared to the COVID years of 2020 to 22, but not anywhere near what it was prior to COVID in 2019. But consumers are becoming a little bit more optimistic about their job situation. And we note, therefore, that that number that felt that jobs were in short supply fell from 51.6% in the second quarter of 2022 to 47.4%. So consumers are a little bit more buoyant about where they are, but they're not overly optimistic about their situation. That point needs to be made very clearly. So when we look at expected business conditions now, again, this is a consistent pattern for consumers because they're now saying, we think that business conditions are going to be better. 25.6% second quarter of 2022, up to 29.2% in the second quarter of 2023. So that pattern suggests that consumers are becoming far more comfortable, far more optimistic about their situation. And we can see later on that consumers are, in fact, in a more positive mood in terms of purchases. But here is something that is probably counterintuitive, because one would have expected that based on their more positive view, second quarter 2023 compared to second quarter 2022, that there would be a greater expectation about jobs. But that fell off. 33.8% in the second quarter of 2022, down to 27.2% in the second quarter of 2023, expected the job situation to be better. So whilst they see business conditions improving, they're not overly optimistic about getting jobs. And that is an important factor to note, because we keep talking about the declared positives that are associated with the macroeconomic picture. But at the same time, we're finding through this study and through other studies that we do on a regular basis that consumers are not necessarily feeling that trickle-down effect. And this is what is actually being reflected to a certain extent with this particular piece of data. So what impact is this likely to have? Again, we find that consumers' perception is on a kind of a roller coaster, if you wish, because against the background of the feeling that the economy is going to get better, that businesses are going to improve their performance, and the fact that jobs are not going to be plentiful, has never been, and there's no change in that perception, they still expect their incomes to improve. Now, how is this so? So this is counterintuitive, but consumers are, in fact, and we sometimes wonder whether they are simply saying that this is a hope rather than a real expectation. It's difficult to pull it apart in a study like this because there are no questions included to ask them, why are you saying so? But it is worthy to note that consumers, whilst thinking positively about the business environment around them and the economy, are not overly optimistic about their own situation, but yet they expect their incomes to improve. So how does this actually pan out in terms of their behavior pattern? When we look at their intention to purchase, we can see that there is a significant improvement. And we say significant because when we've looked at the pattern of purchase plans, those have not really moved much. So NCB in particular will be pleased to note that consumers in the second quarter of 2023 are now, we won't want to use the word bullish, but they're certainly far more positive about purchasing vacations, vehicles, and homes in that order. Very important to note. Now, we have done a number of other studies which we have borrowed some of the information from to make the following comment. Persons are now more inclined to travel with the easing of the COVID restrictions and the relaxation, certainly, of the need for vaccinations to travel. So people are more inclined to travel. And when we look at that situation, in the second quarter of 2022, that number was 27.6% who had said they intended to take a vacation. That number moved up in the second quarter of 2023 to 41.2%, a significant jump. So that the minds of consumers are beginning to unfreeze. They're becoming a little bit more, not a little bit more, significantly more positive about taking vacations. And to a large extent, obviously, the lockdown of the previous 2-3 years would have conditioned this kind of response. So again, we make the point that NCB, I'm sure, would be pretty happy to hear this. They're also now thinking more in terms of purchasing vehicles, and a smaller increase who say they would certainly would like to purchase a home, given their now more positive mindset. So when we look across the years, and we just go back to the last 5 years from 2019, we could see that consumer confidence was at an all-time high in 2019 at 180.2 points. That has shifted down to 2023 to 159. So, and the first 2 quarters is what we're looking at in 2023. That has shifted from 160 in 2022 down to 159, hardly any change over the last 12 months. But note that that is a significant improvement on 2021 during the heights of COVID, when that index was 140 points. So we're beginning, if you wish, to see a gradual improvement in consumer confidence. We see it in terms of the macro numbers that are generated and reported on a regular basis. And therefore, there is a relationship, a definite connection between what people see as a growing improvement in the economy, even if it is marginally so, and what now seems to be an improvement in business and consumer confidence over the last 2 years. 2020 was 160, significant improvement on 2021, but we've slipped a little bit to 159 points in the first 2 quarters of 2023. So we want to look at, here's one of the questions, perhaps the only question where we ask people, why are you saying so? So we had a certain number of people who said the economy is going to be better in the next 12 months. So we wanted to ask them, why is it so? But first of all, let's look at the comparison between 2022, 2023, the first quarter, and the second quarter. 2023, first quarter, 2023, second quarter. In the first quarter of 2023, 21.8% felt the economy was going to be better. That fell marginally to 20%, and that percentage point is really negligible. So we could virtually say there was a flat line in terms of the number of persons who felt the economy was going to be better. But we wanted to know what were the bases on which they came to that kind of assessment, kind of conclusion. Well, not necessarily in terms of order of importance, but it does reflect that kind of strength. The first reason was that more sectors were reopening and some new business opportunities were being created. Secondly, people are just hopeful things will improve, and they're therefore saying business conditions and the economy is going to get better because I'm hoping things will improve. Nothing concrete, but again, it's an optimism which we have noted, and people are making that point very, very, very forcibly. 3, they believe the economy is improving. So this is, again, an indication that they are confident that things are changing for the better. Fourthly, the COVID threat has been reduced. Now, obviously, last week we heard that there's been a slight increase in the number of COVID cases, and obviously this is cause for concern. We see the masks coming out again. But where we were from April till now, when we did the field work, people are saying, I think the economy is going to get better because the COVID threat has been reduced. And we also think in terms of people saying, you know, we're going to get, things are getting better, and we're pretty optimistic about where we are. And therefore, we think the economy is going to get better, and we hope to be participating in that progress. But there are a number of persons who felt that the conditions are going to get worse. And we asked them why. High cost of living. And we will see in a subsequent chart that this is a huge concern amongst consumers. High cost of living, high inflation, not unrelated. Government not doing enough for the economy. High crime rates. So these are the principal factors that people are saying, are using to support their argument that the economy is going to worsen in the next 12 months. So people are concerned about the economy, and they've indicated their primary reasons why. Now, I made reference to this particular piece of information because we asked persons, talk to us about prices compared to last year. And it is important to note, and this is probably one of the factors that might inhibit persons' ability to exercise the kinds of mental considerations about purchase patterns now compared to where it was previously. But 80% of the consumers that we interviewed said that over the last year, prices have increased significantly. And this is consistent with the data that we got in the last quarter, because people are indeed very concerned about the significant increases in prices that they have experienced. 16% believe that prices have increased moderately, and only 4% believe that there's been really no change in the price levels compared to last year. But important to note, there is a huge concern about what they consider to be the significant increase in prices year to year, 2022 to 2023 to date. We want to segue now into the business confidence. And we're going to be seeing a slight departure, if you wish, from the previous pattern which set in over the last 12 months, so to speak. What have we found in terms of business confidence? Really, it's a flat line. There has been less than a 1 percentage point increase in the index of business confidence this quarter, second quarter 2023, compared to the first quarter of 2023. Very flat line. If we look back to 2019, where that index was 151, again, consistent with consumer fall off in confidence, we see a dramatic fall off in business confidence consequent on COVID. There's no question that this is a direct contributor factor, direct driver of the fall off in business confidence. It picked up substantially in the last 2 quarters of 2022. Substantially because, as we made the point a quarter ago, there were significant expectations coming out of the opening up of the economy in the second quarter of 2022, plans being made for the third quarter and fourth quarter Christmas period of 2022, and there was therefore an expectation that this would continue. The pattern is only marginally better this quarter than it was first quarter of 2023. But again, we need to take note of the fact that the last 2 quarters of 2022 represented dramatic increases in business confidence. So where are we now in terms of how businesses feel about their own situation? We want to compare, for example, the period second quarter 2022 to where we are currently in the second quarter of 2023. There is a considerable degree of improvement or increase, if you wish, in how businesses feel about their own businesses. they believe that, and they indicate that their current profit levels are better than expected. In the second quarter of 2022, that was 14 percentage points who felt that their business, their current profit was better than expected. That has almost doubled to 23% who feel that that level has in fact been better than they expected. What about investment and expansion plans? Pretty much flat. And I think what we're seeing here is a conservative kind of position being taken by businesses. They believe their profits are going to be better. They believe that business conditions are going to be better, but there's hardly any improvement in their investment plans, expansion plans. That's important to note because businesses take a long-term perspective of their own environment. And whilst they believe that things are improving, they're pretty cautious and in a way conservative about going forward in terms of investments. They're not anywhere back to that bullish period prior to COVID when 65% of businesses felt it was a good time to invest. They're pretty conservative right now. And that number between second quarter of 2022 and second quarter of 2023 is hardly any change, less than 1 percentage point. Okay. How do they feel about the economy? Firms again are saying, I think the economy is going to improve. But again, they're taking a pretty cautious approach to this whole situation. Their firm's finances are going to improve, 63.2 moving up to 70.6. And their profits are going to improve, 53.5 up to 64.3. All of these are positive indicators. And therefore, businesses are, in fact, thinking. They're kind of relaxing their mind from that severe restrictions that were placed on them by COVID. And they're now expecting things to get better and expecting things. And obviously, they're going to try to drive that. So when we look across, though, the 5 years, we can see that between last year and the first 2 quarters of this year, there's hardly any change in the overall confidence level. And it is, again, not anywhere near that 143.9, 43.6%, which was reflected in that 2009 period, which was one of our highest periods over the last 10 years. So business confidence grew, certainly, from 124.9, an index of 124.9 in 2021, up to 137 in 2022, flattened over the first 2 quarters of 2023 to 137.6. It says that businesses are cognizant of the fact that they're putting in place, and they do say so, putting in place things to improve their own environment, to improve businesses. They believe the economy is going to be growing, in noticeably good points from an index perspective over the next year, but they're still pretty conservative and they're still pretty kind of outward looking, forward thinking and saying, it's going to take a while for that change to effectively be reflected. So here's where we are. And this consolidates their own perspective. They believe that the economy is going to get better. When we look at the first quarter of 2023, 41% said they believe that business conditions, the economy is going to get better. Conditions are going to improve. When we talk to the businesses again, those 100+ businesses that we talked to in the second quarter of 2023, that number moved from 41% to 51%. Therefore, we can see that there is a 20 percentage point increase, a 10% overall, from 41 to 51, but a 20% increase in real terms in the number of firms who felt that the economy was going to get better over the next 12 months. So why do you say so? Or qualitative evaluation of that particular response. People said the economy is recovering. They're being optimistic. So very much like the consumers who didn't really pinpoint a specific factor, specific driver, businesses are just being optimistic that things are going to happen for the better. They're just being optimistic. So they aren't concrete in this particular notation, but they're saying we're just optimistic that things are going to improve. 3, they're saying government policies are being put in place to improve the economy. And they are bought into this notion and are saying that the economy is going to be better because government policies are being put in place to try to drive the economy to new heights. Some sectors say some sectors will improve the economy, and they point in particular to the tourism sector, as we will see when we look at that chart in terms of where investment is likely, where capital expenditure is likely to take place, that tourism is one of the big drivers. So they're saying the economy is going to improve, and they believe that some sectors will in fact be drivers of the economy. So what about those who feel that business conditions are going to be worse? And despite the fact that businesses in general feel that the economy is going to improve, there are some people, some businesses who felt the economy is going to get worse. But note that that number fell from 27% in the first quarter of 2023 to 21% in the second quarter of 2023. So very much like we did for those who felt that the economy was going to get better, we asked them, why do you say the economy is going to get worse? No surprise. People point specifically to the increase in crime levels as one of the major factors that will in fact inhibit the growth in the economy. This is our recurring decimal. Every time we make this presentation, crime is singled out as perhaps the largest item, largest factor that will drive a curtailment in the improvement in the economy. Crime is a serious deleterious factor of what is taking place in the economy, and it is one thing that would in fact inhibit the growth in the economy, increase in crime. Some persons, business persons, don't feel that the economy is going to improve that quickly. They're long-term thinkers. They realize that things are changing, but they believe it will take some time. And when we ask them what kind of time frame you're talking about, businesses generally say, well, over the next 3 to 5 years, we believe that things are going to show marked improvement. But for the moment, we don't think it's going to be at a fast pace, right? Businesses are still concerned about the supply chain challenges, which are resulting in high prices for goods and services that they use in the generation of their businesses. And this is an important factor to note. High job loss, high unemployment. Why is this a factor? We're talking about businesses saying so. Well, obviously, if consumers don't have jobs and employment is at a level which is not comfortable, then it means that they aren't going to be able to have the disposable income to purchase the goods that they will produce. So they're saying this is a factor that they will, that they believe will inhibit the growth in the economy because not sufficient numbers of persons will be able to buy the goods that they generate. So these are the kinds of key factors that people talk about, businesses talk about, and use as far as they are concerned, the drivers of factors that will inhibit the growth in the economy. We just reflect upon the situation in terms of investment plans. We're coming from a period prior to COVID when close to 70% of businesses felt that it was a good time to invest. Businesses were very, very bullish about their capital investment plans. That fell substantially during COVID. It's not back to those levels by any means. There is a slight improvement in the number of firms who said that it was a good time to invest, but that is just over 50%. Now you may want to say, well, the majority of firms believe it's a good time to invest. And I think that probably is a good takeaway. But again, the trend is always an important predictor of future behavior. And at the moment, there is a certain degree of conservatism compared to the pre-COVID period in terms of how people see their investment plans. Well, this is a question that was introduced maybe 3-4 years ago because we kept on talking about businesses being bullish. And it was important at a point in time when businesses were pretty bullish about their investment plans. Well, where is the investment going to go? So I think 3-4 years ago, just before COVID, we introduced a question to say, well, what are the areas that you are going to be expending more capital in? And we have a good pattern. It fluctuates period by period. And a lot depends on where the recent investment has been and therefore where the next set of investment is going to be. When we look at the first 2 quarters of 2023, what are the drivers of this new capital investment plan? Transport, storage, 70%. 70%. Tourism and hospitality, 67%, followed by farming at 62%. We know that agriculture and certainly tourism and in fact other services have been critical drivers. We note, however, that other services, which are the personal care, the kinds of hairdressers, salons, people in small businesses largely, they were pretty bullish when the first quarter was generated. 75% for 2022. 2022. When you look at to date, 2023, that fell by, a significant percentage, down to 40%. All right. So maybe one would contend that the investment took place in 2022, and therefore it's understandable that there's been a slowdown in this plan to invest capital in 2023. It is to be seen. But where we are right now, we can see that overall, there's been a bunching up of investment plans across the various sectors that we looked at. And whereas when we look at 2022, we can see ebbs and flows in those percentages. When we look at the period in 2023, we can see a certain degree of consistency at a higher level. So there are plans, and these are the areas that businesses say they're going to, in fact, these are the businesses that say they're going to invest capital, worthy of note. A very important factor, and we put it here for a good reason, is that we have seen from a period in 2011 when this question was introduced, and this question was introduced because we couldn't understand certain purchase plans that consumers were exhibiting against the background of the challenges that we saw them facing during that period. So we said there has to be a detailed, a more, in a way, disaggregated explanation for the purchase plans that we were seeing. It just was not counter. It was counter to what we were picking up. So we introduced a question, the wisdom of the Chamber of Commerce decided, let's introduce a question on remittances and see what's happening. And we're very happy we did that, because that has really shed a lot of light in terms of why people feel so confident about their purchase plans. During COVID, we can see from 2020 down to 2022, a substantial decline in the number of households that claimed they were receiving remittances. Now, we want to make the point that when we disaggregate that and look at the sort of demographic of the household receiving remittances, whilst it is mainly the low, middle to low income, it is not exclusive to the low, middle, low income. In fact, right across the socioeconomic spectrum, households claim that they are receiving remittances, some more than others. But in 2021, consequent on the impact of COVID in the developed countries from which the majority of the remittances were coming, we found that that incidence of households receiving remittances fell dramatically from 35. We say dramatically because it was pretty constant from 2011 all the way through to 2020 at about 35% average. That fell to 29% in 2021, further to 26% in 2022. I think we'd want to say happily, we will see that number in the first 2 quarters of 2023 inching up backwards to 27%. Why do I say happily? What we have established based on this trend of data is that a significant percentage of Jamaican households use remittances to shore up their daily household needs. It is a factor that cushions them against the challenges that they face with the economy. And when we see, therefore, that fall off, it is consistent almost with a decline in consumer confidence over this period, the challenges that consumers face during that period. And we now see them picking up back up to 27 percentage points. And we don't know what the next quarter will yield and how the year will pan out, but we say that that is a positive sign, and one should hope that it continues, because we have established that a significant percentage of households depend on remittances to survive on a day-to-day basis, right? So that was our last chart. Now, there's something that I want to reflect upon, because we're now in the era and the discussion started, and I'm very happy to be part of this discussion where AI was used to look at certain patterns. And who knows, maybe next time when we make our presentation in October, we may very well use some AI technology to be able to make this presentation. It's very important to note, and we did include a question on AI to see exactly where firms were at in terms of their whole appreciation of possible potential use of AI. And I just want to read from a section that we pulled together on the basis of a question that was introduced for the very first time. And it is A, that firms acknowledge the importance of technology for future business success. There's absolutely no question about that. More question. People are recognizing that we're going into an age where there are fears. And I'm very happy to see Yoni on, because I know that there have been a lot of concerns about AI replacing workers and, huge challenges for employment over the next couple of years. And I'm happy to know that, there's been a pushback in this terms, in terms of this kind of narrative, but let us hear what firms are thinking. The vast majority of firms, 76%, intend to invest in technology. They've been doing that. And that is, they intend to do that in order to secure the future success of their businesses. So they understand the importance of technology. No question about that. That is pretty evident in our environment. Industries that are most likely to invest in technology are personal care and other services. 92% of them said that this is where they're heading. Wholesale and retail, 87%. Tourism and hospitality, 87%. And construction and installation, 86%. So that across the industrial spectrum that we just looked at a while ago, in addition to capital expenditure, they're now disaggregating, they're now drilling down more into where they plan to go. And the large majority of them, 8 out of 10, in most instances, say that technology is where they intend to invest, right? Electronic payment solutions for customers and suppliers top the list of technology that firms plan to invest in, 28%, followed by customized software for businesses. Others most frequently mentioned include social media marketing, GPS technology, 19%, and new hardware, 19%. So not only do we see that firms are generally inclined to invest more in capital to grow their businesses, but technology is an important consideration as well. And they're specific about this drive and this push towards technology and their intention to invest more in technology to be able to grow their businesses and to make their businesses that more efficient. So I'll end on that note. Summary: consumers, their confidence level has dipped only by 2 percentage points. So we could virtually say for the moment that that is a negligible decline. Whether or not that continues, that pattern continues third quarter, we don't know. We are in the field collecting data for the third quarter already. We're virtually in the middle of that almost. So we will know in another 2 months thereabout whether this is a pattern that is set in where consumer confidence is going to continue to decline. And again, everybody hopes not. But for the first 2 quarters, that consumer confidence level fell, to be noted. Business confidence is flat. It went up by less than 1 percentage point. But businesses are pretty optimistic about the future of the economy, the future of their businesses, but as yet don't see the need, don't think that is a time to dramatically increase their investment. But they are in fact taking note, and we believe that if this pattern continues, we may very well see a return to somewhere near that bullish investment factor that we experienced prior to COVID. But there's no question that COVID, it's pretty obvious, has played a significant factor in dulling the growth of business and consumer confidence. Both businesses and consumers are beginning to crawl out of that kind of environment. And it is to be left to be seen third quarter and fourth quarter, whether this pattern that we've seen continues into the next year, 2024. I thank you for listening and hope that it's been clear and that it will generate certain questions and we can answer them admirably and comfortably. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Don. A lot of information there, you know. Before I throw to the panelists for their comments, I said, Norman, itching to talk. I noticed something. I mean, you did comment that the results showed that businesses in terms of investing are fairly flat, while at the same time, that sectoral slide showed everybody up over the previous quarter. So what do you say would account for that sort of anomaly? I mean, the business slide indicated clearly a flat trend. It was very negligible in terms of intent to invest. While at the same time, the sectoral slide showed all of the sectors of the economy that you looked at increasing their percentages of them who are looking to invest increased.
I think it is fair to say that businesses recognize that the basis on which they can grow is by investing. That's a pretty common statement to make. But they also recognize that there's a long-term kind of process through which they have to go. And whilst they are pretty conservative in general about their investment plans, it is clear that all of them have moved up, almost all of them, except of course personal care, moved up in terms of their intention to invest capital in their business growth, because they know that this is perhaps the one big driver of that improvement in business flow. But there is a certain degree of conservatism, which is evident in the marketplace, because again, they believe that this is going to take a while to actually manifest itself. But obviously, what will underpin the acceleration or drive any acceleration would be capital investment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Nadine for answering some of the questions as they come in the chat, and others are contributing as well. All right, panelists. Norman, thank you first. What is your take on these results here? From your business perspective, are these results in keeping with what you're seeing in your business, one, and two, your customers? Are these reflections here, results here, in keeping with what you're seeing on the ground? And so what's driving it?
Yeah, thank you for that, Andre. Yes, definitely. Based on what we're seeing, I'm glad to see that we're coming out of this COVID pause, because it was a very difficult period for a lot of organizations and businesses in Jamaica and worldwide. And for us, 2023 has been very similar to the results that you're seeing there. We are seeing more customers investing in projects, in technology, in particular with security-based products coming into 2023. So it's a very good indication of where we are going, because just before COVID, Jamaica was very bullish. A lot of businesses felt that we were coming into a period of being very prosperous. And then we got hit with COVID. That slowed us down. But it's very encouraging to see the indicators that we're coming out of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lauren, from your perspective, are these results in keeping with what you're seeing in your business generally, and are your customers responding the way the customers in this survey are responding?
I would say yes. First of all, thank you, Don, for that. That was a very interesting presentation. But to answer your question, Andre, definitely for sure, I see where businesses are. I wouldn't say taking the risk now, but they're definitely developing more products and services and looking to see how they can take advantage of the growth in the economy. One of the things that stood out in the survey results was on the matter of jobs done, because every business person that I know complains about not being able to find the right amount of people, juxtaposed against, the results well, you did say that it's never plenty, it's never enough, right? So I found that to be interesting. You know, I don't know any business owner that has enough people or can find the right people. So that was interesting to me. But definitely, Andre, I think businesses from my, you know, especially where I sit, are looking to expand and grow now, and they're a little bit more confident in making capital investment decisions.
Okay, it seems to me that the way you're sounding, the cautious optimism that we see in the survey seems to be more aggressive on your end.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Yoni Epstein, Chief Executive Officer, Founding Chairman, ITEL BPO. How does these results pan out against what's happening in your business and with your customer?
Well, you know, our customers are predominantly from North America, and our employee relations are, you know, here in Jamaica and elsewhere we operate. So, you know, I think that the results that were presented by Don are very similar and indicative to what is being very cautious, you know, particularly with the cost of capital as to where it is at today with interest rates, both locally and internationally being driven up by central banks due to the fact of inflation. I think as we start to see inflation continuing to drop both locally and internationally, the hope is the back half of this year we see interest rates start to drop, which that would naturally drive business confidence to invest more because capital is becoming cheaper to be able to receive a return on that investment and that return on capital. With regards to the jobs aspect of things, you know, I have a slightly different perspective. I think that, you know, Jamaica has the workforce to support the business today plus necessary growth. I think Jamaica has a productivity problem. I think we as businesses are having to hire 2 and 3 and 4 additional people to do the job of one person, to, you know, the unreliability of employees. And part of that is not necessarily them, but it's also us as employers that need to, you know, want to incentivize and drive more reliability on that front. So therefore, you don't need as many employees to be able to achieve the task or the job at hand. In regards to consumer confidence, you know, that again is really going to be driven by the amount of money in their pockets. And I think that the results indicate that, you know, that is remaining steady, although it had a slight dip. But as Don said, it's not a major dip to this, you know, have a major concern. And you'll see how that looks after the summer months. If I was to predict, you know, summer's a time when people are out of school and off and are spending more. So, you know, that may show a similar result at the end of the next quarter. So that's my perspective on the results that we've seen here today.
Thank you, Yoni. A question in the chat about the recording. This will be available on YouTube. I think it would be on the NCB YouTube pages. Okay, so we're focusing now really on how are we using or plan to use artificial intelligence to grow and build our businesses. And Don, that slide that we included a few years ago on which sectors of the economy are investing, it is a suggestion in the chat, and I would sort of endorse it, that if we're going to continue to ask, we should continue to ask the question about the investments in technology. And the question would be, what sectors, what type of technology, I mean, would businesses be investing in? Just so that we can have a feel of where the capital is going as it relates to technology. So,
agree with you, Andre.
Thank you. So, Lauren, so are you positioning artificial intelligence to the public to assist us in growing the businesses? I mean, there's still a certain amount of mystery, hesitation in some aspects about using intelligence and AI to really jumpstart businesses using data analytics. How does one package that to sell it to us businesses to allow us to put it into our mainstream strategic plan? You're muted, Larry.
My bad. Yeah, good question. I think the first thing, Andre, is to understand, businesses need to understand that, despite the fear mongering that's happening out there, AI is to be used as a tool to augment our existing processes and our existing systems, right? So there are several ways in which you can use AI to enhance and support what your business does from a day-to-day standpoint. So, the first thing I'd say is, to become AI first in everything. So that would be looking at every process or every function within your organization and then finding tools that can be used to automate that, because everything that can be automated will be automated. Every job that can be automated will be automated. And from a standpoint of efficiency, it's important to be able to take advantage of that from these early days in AI. I keep saying that I think that we're in day one of AI. There's been such a rapid rate of innovation that has happened in the last 8 months that, it blows my mind to see what's going to come even next year this time.
Thank you. Norman, same question. How is AI really helping you to build out your business?
Well, AI is going to help us to become more effective and efficient. So, just example is a presentation earlier where AI generated a presentation. Time is money, is your inventory in our business. So we can use AI to help us build those presentations, build out the scope of work documents. It helps us with a lot of the day-to-day questions or common questions asked, chatbots, when people have issues, which is, it's going to create this opportunity, but it's also a threat. We have to probably recognize that. I mean, we saw there that early adopters were definitely poised to make great benefits with AI versus non-adopters are going to, not grow. Business may shrink. And it's not a question where businesses are going to adopt AI. They're going to have to, okay? But the question then is, what happens to, for example, the entry-level jobs? So entry-level jobs are the easiest for AI to displace, which means, back to Lawrence about a job. I'm seeing very similar things. A lot of our customers are saying they can't find the persons, but the persons they're looking for are not entry-level necessarily. They're the mid-level to the senior positions, partly because of, things like brain drain. COVID has shown where you could be anywhere in the world and be working. So, people in IT in particular are getting jobs in Jamaica working for UK, Canada, USA firms. So AI will displace jobs, but it'll also create jobs. And it will also transform the types of skills required. It's no longer a person coming in for data entry, receiving a call, answering, where's my package? Where's my, how do I uninstall this application? It's going to be the higher level. So we have to adopt it, and we are adopting it, but it is going to change how we do business.
Okay, thank you. You on the same question. I see a question in the chat from the president of the chamber saying, based on your response, Yoni, regarding productivity, how do you see the impact of AI on productivity, but also on the labor demands? Because Richard, Norman touched on it a little bit, but how do you buffer the perceived loss in employment with the potential gain in other types of employment? How are you managing that from a perspective of the BPO industry? how is AI going to help you bring more efficiency and more jobs?
So first, let me just say that, you know, AI is something, and I heard somebody say it earlier, AI is something that has been around for many, many years. AI is something that we have adopted in our business, and many companies in the industry have adopted for many, many years in different facets of recruitment, quality assurance, sentiment analysis, monitoring in networks, automation with inside of finance. These are all things that are there. The aspect of AI. So AI didn't come overnight or in November last year. AI has been here forever. What is the new form of AI is a generative AI that is the big hype these days, and people are watching as to what that's going to do and how that's going to make business more efficient, or the threat of the loss of jobs and so on and so forth. What I will say is at the onset, I believe, jobs that are dealing with online chat, similar to what we saw from the presentation from Nadine earlier, as well as things like answering emails and social media responses and so on. Those are going to be the ones that are the easiest for AI to tackle immediately, right? However, they have to be trained. They have to be inputted into the knowledge base. And what I will say on the risk side of things is clients are very concerned about allowing the open AI aspect of things to be allowed into their knowledge base, because once they allow that in, that data, which is so valuable to that client of ours, is now open to the entire world. It's open to their competitors, it's open to their customers, it's open to everybody. So while there's a big move to say, how quickly can I get AI into my business, people are also have a real big precaution. And many of our clients have written us and said, do not use open AI products to try and build some type of tool to present to us and sell us, to create efficiencies or to save costs or whatever the case may be, because they have a threat or concern of data exfiltration. So there's many things that we have to be wary about while we are out there looking to try and find the right tools to use inside of the BPO sector. Where I think is necessary, and what we are doing is we're not rushing into this. Our clients are very clear on what they want from us and what they see as their next 5 years as digital transformation, if you want to call it. And we're taking a step back and actually building things within our sandbox and within our IT teams, and utilizing the experience that we have with our clients. So then, therefore, in the next 6-8 months, present a model to them that is not open source, but is something that is within our network, within their network. It is closed sourced, and something that can then transition the business to being more efficient. Are you going to see jobs potentially being lost? I think things as I said before, in the areas of chat or email or social media responses that are not voice related, will be the first, but again, they have to be trained by the machine and by individuals and fix the problems, because it's learning. It's not just going to turn on overnight and start to pop the answers out that the consumers want. And you certainly don't want to turn on something that's going to create a bad experience for a customer, because there's also data out there showing that customers are not as loyal as they used to be. So they have a bad experience, they're going to move to another company that's providing the same or similar services. To kind of go on to Michael's question about the productivity, I think AI will enhance productivity tremendously. While you have the generative stuff that will allow for certain functions to be done autonomously, you also have tools that will allow for your voice agents and other people to be able to act faster, get to the knowledge base and get the answer to the consumer's question faster, to be able to support them and provide a better experience. So therefore, if you're reducing your talk times to a consumer, that will naturally reduce your headcount and your needs to be able to deliver their overall services. So I really look at this as more of an opportunity than a threat. I certainly don't think that, this is something to be concerned about. As I've seen certain quotes out there recently, it's not AI that's going to take the job. It's the person that is using AI. So as I've heard ring through several times today, that if you're not a first mover in trying to understand it and figure out how it is going to enhance and make your business better, then you're going to be on the back end in a year or two from now trying to figure out, where to go, and you've already lost the momentum at that point.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a question in the chat from somebody who appears to be a lecturer to me, directed to Don and Lauren. I'll go with Don first. How do lecturers navigate AI as it concerns copyright and intellectual property, as it speaks to plagiarism and academic research? So, I mean, in your case, Don, it would be consumer research or research generally. How do you, what kind of plan would you see to navigate AI as it concerns your ownership of the data? You're muted now.
Very, very interesting question. Just before I go there, I just want to take up on something that Lauren said about the fear-mongering that is taking place within the whole environment of AI. And I think perhaps what is going to be critically important over the next 2 years is some kind of, I use the word forum loosely, where people could become far more aware, could be made far more aware of what AI is all about. I think there's a lack of information right now about what AI is, and therefore I think this is what is generating the fear within businesses as to what is likely to take place. Now, we haven't thought, unfortunately, far enough yet in terms of the impact that AI could have on our own business. All right. And that's because to a large extent, we're still pretty much people dependent in terms of our data gathering and so on. And I'm not therefore quite sure. I haven't thought about it, honestly, to be able to answer that question efficiently. So I probably want to not comment on it yet. I think it's something that we're looking at surely, because people have said, we have to go, certainly in terms of our data analytics arm, that, this is an area that we have to begin to look at very sooner rather than later. But again, in terms of what I think is probably the more legal implications of it, I'm not quite sure yet. We have to think a little bit more about that.
Right. Lauren, your question, how are we navigating AI, given, intellectual property, plagiarism, copyright, etc.?
So from a academic schooling standpoint, and I'm not a futurist, but what we know as school will not be prevalent in the future, right? You'll pretty much not need to learn anything because AI will do everything for you, right? So that's the first thing. From a plagiarism standpoint, what I've seen, lecturers out of the States, North America, discussing is switching to more practical-based learning, more in-person testing, etc., because literally you can write entire research papers now using AI by just putting in the subject. So the only way, and there are tools now where you can, spot to some extent an article or a paper or some text that was written by AI. But what I'm seeing is that there some lecturers are switching to more practical based. But back on the matter of learning, I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, but I can right now develop an entire app just using generative AI and telling AI the app I want to build, and it will generate the code. I think I saw some statistics the other day that 60% of the code that is in GitHub, which is a code repository, is now AI generated. I have friends who are developers that over 80% of their code is now AI generated. So they're not, manually coding and writing code anymore. So, it from that standpoint, like I said, I don't consider myself a futurist, but the need for schooling as we know it in the future, and your need to learn certain topics and certain skills will be negated because AI will just do everything for you by command.
Right. All right. I see Yoni unmuted. You have a comment there, Yoni?
No, I just think that, there's, to the point, I mean, there are systems out there now that can determine plagiarism and if it was AI generated. So that's a way, the lecturer asked a question, I think is something. But I also really believe that, we see the EU has taken a jump on legislating AI. And I'm sure the US is right behind. And I see our minister without portfolio seeking to establish a committee. And I think that's a very, very good move on the part of the government to try and understand better as to what's happening in the international markets. Because, some of the things that I read on AI is, people are concerned. It's particularly where people are writing code. These are, people anywhere in the world putting it out in open source, and then code can take its own life and start to develop things, and code attacking other code. And it's we can go down a rabbit hole that while this is attempted to be presented as something to really take businesses to the next level and really take efficiency to the next level and make people move and do things faster and better, there's a real threat to it. And that threat is, in my opinion, not a job loss threat. The threat is what kind of life can this take on, and how it can produce a question that was asked in there next to me about cybersecurity. I think Norman should probably touch on that a bit, because I think that's a real threat to what's happening in business and humanity on a whole. And I think going the route of legislation is something that we really need to be first mover on as the largest English-speaking country in the Caribbean.
Great, thank you. Before Norman, yes, certainly I want to come to that, Norman, in terms of cybersecurity and equally significantly data privacy. There's a question in the chat about that. But before that, let's bring it back home a little bit. How can the average Jamaican take advantage of opportunities in AI? Is there any official training, sensitization session where you can employ analysts and employ even students in your business, Yoni, to do this kind of thing? Norman, you want to take a shot at that?
Well, the world is all connected, right? So education is all over the place. I mean, I can tell you, even in our industry, a lot of the education that our engineers get is YouTube. It's free. It's free education. It's searching the web, asking AI, how do you do things? Where we are in AI right now, you need to be able to understand what it outputs. Okay, it's not going to be able to give you the common sense or the emotional intelligence or the creativity at this point in time. But you can ask AI to help you define the problem, help you define the solution, and use that information to use other tools out there. Either there's YouTube, there's a lot of free sites in security. There's universities offering free lectures. So the average Jamaican, you could get a lot of education for free or near free, because with educational platforms like Coursera, you can get a certificate in university courses for $20 US. So you don't have to get a university degree these days. And I don't think a lot of businesses are really looking at the degrees as much as the aptitude and attitude of people. And the product, because we realize the productivity is an issue. And I agree totally with Laurie that we do have a productivity issue in this country. Jobs, we've had jobs opening for years because we can't find the skill set in Jamaica. We've actually had to start advertising outside of Jamaica because we can't find the resources.
What particular areas, Norman?
Security is one, the networking, general IT. I mean, you may be able to find people who have very entry-level knowledge, but to find that level 2, level 3 knowledge, they're either working, if they're in Jamaica, they either have a very senior role, or they're working for a firm outside of Jamaica, in Jamaica. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I'm actually shocked at a job. You know, people say there are no opportunities in Jamaica.
Okay. The only same question is, what can the average Jamaican do to take advantage or to get more integrated into AI?
Research the internet. I mean, it's all out there for anybody to grab. And I mean, with some of the conversations that have been had, and some of the things that I'm reading, I mean, you cannot be a software developer or a coder and go to OpenAI and write your own code. Basically, tell it what you want, and it'll pull out back the code that you want. I mean, Lauren said it. He can go and tell AI to write an app, and the app will get developed for him. I mean, that's where things are at now. So you know, it's not about, you know, how do we enhance UTech, or you know, what programs you need to do at UE. You can very, very easily go on the internet and you know, learn more and more about it every day, because there's more information and research that's being done and coming out to that everyone's access. So it's at your fingertips.
Okay, excellent. All right, so the data privacy question now, Lauren. How do we incorporate data gathering, data management, particularly AI now, into a privacy platform? December 1 is a new paradigm in terms of how we manage customer data. What role will AI play, and how do we integrate the soon to be integrated, soon to be legislated, soon to be enacted data privacy laws and regulations while using AI?
That's a very, very good question. I would actually prefer to defer it to Norman though, because that would be his area of expertise.
Sure.
Yeah, so with the legislation coming up into effect, you know, data privacy is definitely going to be a critical part, and a large part because AI collects a lot of data. It stores a lot of data and how we utilize that data. So in terms of people's personal identifier information, that is, you know, it's a lot of data on a lot of people. So your best protection is to ensure that you have protected your data to the best of your ability for your business. And that is really the advice that we have for everybody. Because data security has changed. It's not about stopping the attack, because almost everybody is going to get breached at one point or the other. It is what do you do when you get breached to ensure that data is not exfiltrated, to make sure that data is not lost. And that is where the foundation of security is happening. So you do have to ensure that you get your data protection officer. You make sure that you are in compliance with the act, but you definitely have to look about, and part of that is to ensure that your underlying security and your processes are there to support it.
Thank you very much. And for those who don't know, the Data Privacy Act, Data Protection Act, was passed last year and it takes effect December 1, 2023. So anybody who is a data controller, you need to make sure that you have policies in place to protect your customer data. There's a question in the chat that is for NCB Capital Markets, really. So I'll draw your attention to it. If there are any companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange that one can look to invest in that are projected to grow based on using AI. So I give that to NCB Caps to deal with. But Nadine, I have a question for you as regarding to using AI in customer service, especially in the financial institutions and any retail business, really. The websites now have a bot situation where basically you're talking to a computer. The questions that are basic are answered easily. But I find it difficult from time to time when I use it to transition to somebody live. When you have an additional technical question, there's no way to opt out to go to somebody who can answer a more technical question apart from the cookie cutter questions that the AI answers. How are you going to balance, especially in financial services where it's very personalized service? I mean, some people prefer to eyeball somebody and talk to somebody live. How does one balance, Nadine, the AI that can answer the quick questions about what time your branch open and close to somebody who has a really personal problem? I mean, I find that it can be a turn off if it is not properly managed. How is the commercial bank dealing with that side of it?
So Andre, great question. We're still in the early stages in terms of our AI applications. But what I would say is one of the benefits of using AI is that we are able to have particular cues for persons with simple questions, because what has happened in the past and what most business struggle with, everyone is on that same line. So what that means is that persons with really more technical and complicated questions are forced to wait an extended period of time because there's a mix of simple, medium, and complex. So our idea is to really identify a way of solving the simple in a much more efficient way, and that provides the capacity for the agents to focus on that live hand-holding, much more complex service.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Certainly a lot on the plate. All right, we're coming to the end. So the final question I would have for the panelists really is, from a legislative standpoint, government, investment, etc., what do you think is required to develop and integrate AI further into the DNA or the culture of Jamaica? I don't know which one want to start. Yoni, you want to start?
I'm not sure where to start, to be honest with you. But I think
government are where.
I think if I was to advise the government, just similarly like the Data Protection Act, where they had consultants come in and they look at the GDPR, which is the European Act. They look at the stuff out of the US, and they amalgamated something that fits for what is right and works for the Jamaica market. I think that's a similar approach that we need to take. There are many firms locally, there are many firms internationally, and the more experts that we bring to the table to guide us, because I think we don't know what we don't know, and a lot of people out there have a lot more experience, and I think the more people we bring to the table to help guide us in the right direction, we'll end up with a legislation that will be beneficial to businesses, individuals, while protecting the nation's interest.
Thank you very much. Norman, from a legislative framework, what do you think is required to integrate AI into society?
Well, I mean, the first part was the Data Protection Act, right? So, but that's part of it. So the data governance and regulation is definitely a part of the AI, because just the amount of data it is storing. But I think also, in order for citizens to trust AI, trust the government, is all, you hear about the transparency. So it has to promote transparency within the organizations and how they're using AI, in terms of what algorithms are they using, where they're getting the data, how is the AI making its decisions? Because as said earlier, the AI is taught, right? So are we teaching it ethically? So ethics definitely would play a part in terms of the government. What are the ethical manners for research and development and use of AI? What are the legal standards required? And also, as AI gets more, the world is getting more connected. So all of these AI systems will share data. So how are they going to collaborate with each other? What is, as I said earlier, ethical versus what is not? And ultimately, we have to look at the educational system to ensure that people coming out into the workforce are able to work cohesively with the AI products that are out there or systems that are out there.
Okay, thank you. Lauren, your question? Muted again. Go ahead.
We 100% with what Yanni and Norman said. But, I was at a AI conference, a tech conference in Toronto about 2 weeks ago, and the godfather of AI spoke, and he was asked the question, what jobs or what skill sets would you, should you learn? And he said, plumbing, become a plumber. And I was interested, because like I said, everything that can be automated will be automated. So from a government standpoint, we need to ensure that the workforce is upskilled. There's a simple thing as prompt engineering, which is how you construct the prompts for the generative AI. That in and of itself is a skill set that needs to be that everyone should know, be learning, and it should be taught. But in line with what was said by this godfather of AI, I think heart has a big role to play. Trades are going to become even more valuable, or having a trade or that type of skill set is going to become even more valuable. Not in the next 5 years, but probably 5 to 10 years, I would say, because the only things that, in my opinion, this is not fear mongering, that AI will not be able to automate would be things that you have to do with your hands, right? So so it's twofold. One, upskilling the workforce to understand AI, to develop AI, create AI, train data, all of that, but also ensuring that citizens can function in a very digital world. And also be very offline as well. There's a dichotomy. I hope I'm explaining it properly. So yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, the consensus I'm getting from Mr. Brown, from Nadine, Yoni, Norman, Dan, is that technology can certainly create more opportunities, and that will bring further confidence in the economy as we sort of build out and become more global, as Norman indicated. So I think this was a very good session. Certainly, Don, thank you again. I think that we should really take on that suggestion that the investment in technology needs to be a slide in the presentation in terms of what types of technology businesses and consumers are going to invest in, and how that will, so we can track how that affects and relates to the confidence levels. I really want to thank again NCB and NCB Capital Markets, our sponsors. Thank Mrs. Nadine Matthews-Blair, VP Group Marketing, Analytics and Digital. Big title, lots of work. I'm sure you're extremely busy. Denario Brown, VP Innovation and Strategy, equally. Certainly Executive Chairman, Market Research, Don Anderson. Thank you again for yet another very insightful presentation. Lots thrown at us there to analyze.
Absolutely.
To our panelists, Mr. Larry Peart, CEO, Blue Dot Insights, Norman Chen, Acting CEO, T-Tech Limited, and of course, Mr. Yoni Epstein, Chief Executive Officer and Founding Chairman of ITEL BPO. Excellent session. For those who are asking, this presentation will be available on YouTube. We just the NCB social media persons or administrators can verify, but it should be up shortly. But what I normally do is just go to YouTube and Google and search Jamaica Chamber of Commerce Q2 2023 results, and it comes up. So if you missed any part of it, it will be available. We thank you very much, all 170 odd who were on earlier. for joining us and sharing this information. We trust that you have found something useful in this information that can help you to grow your own businesses and invest accordingly. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and please enjoy the rest of the day. Panelists, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Knowing this, I'm preparing in advance as much as I can.
Well, I think AI will affect my employment opportunities in a positive way, because I'll be able to do more things, I'll be able to do more jobs, I have more time to do more stuff, like writing press releases for others and stuff like that. So it's been a plus for me so far, and it's helped me in my business.
Biggest challenges would be knowing when to start it and how to navigate it. Starting is always the hardest part, and it's knowing which industries to focus on, which roles to focus on, and how to implement a plan to navigate that.
Well, I think the big challenge there is weeding out the good from the bad, and the AI will just have to be intelligent enough to kind of decipher whether somebody is requesting something for malicious intent. And I think it basically comes down to our responsibility as humans to just use the AI in a safe and positive manner.
Worried about certain industries, tourism, banking, how it affects employment, how it affects people moving forward. When it comes to education, what areas do people focus on now? Does this mean that everything is going to tech? Or does it mean that hospitality, banking, certain businesses will now be obsolete?
That's a big question, and the truth about that question is AI won't be safe. I don't think there's a way to make artificial intelligence safe, because there's not a way to make human intelligence safe. So I don't think artificial intelligence can be safe. I mean, intelligence is a thing that comes with responsibility. So the more intelligent you are, the more responsibility you have. So it really just is all about the humans and what the humans will use the AI to do. So that's all I can say for that.